Heavy hitters have returned. Cosmo Macero, fresh back from a visit to the tall ships.
The Europa, yeah.
Never thought I'd see the day. Peter Kagis of the Boston Phoenix, getting ready for the Harry Potter movie. You going tonight?
Not tonight, but I'll be going this weekend with the kids.
Not surprised at all.
I'm a bigger fan than they are.
Cosmo Macero of O'Neill Associates, by the way. I forgot to sneak that in. Let's get right to it, gentlemen. Dick Cheney, going to be in front of Congress, taking the oath with his hand on the Bible. We're hearing possible congressional hearings here, Peter. A, is this a good idea? Do we need these? And B, surprise, surprise, Dick Cheney doesn't like to follow the rules.
Yeah, listen, we do need the congressional hearings. There's also some talk about a special prosecutor. We do not need a special prosecutor. Congress should be able to handle this. There's no way this can look good for Dick Cheney. The law has no wiggle room. The 8 top members of Congress are supposed to be informed of all covert operations. So if they weren't informed, the law was broken. Period. On the other hand, if the program was low level and didn't rise to the level of being needed, as Cheney's daughter explained for Daddy last night, then why wasn't it? You know, in other words, they either broke the law or they weren't doing their job. I don't see any good coming of this.
Well, he touches on the issue, Cosmo, which is that as I'm looking at this thing, why wouldn't they tell the members of Congress about this? No one in Congress was going to say, no, don't kill Al-Qaeda leaders. I mean, they would have green stamped or red stamped or whatever color stamp they use this thing.
Green
no
light.
problem.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, veil of secrecy, operating in the shadows, something about the Bush administration. It's how they operated in many ways. With regard to things that the American people maybe wouldn't get behind. In this case, something that the American people and those top members of Congress probably would have got behind. Doesn't make a lot of sense here why they would operate in the shadows on this policy.
I assume you two are like me, and you would enjoy seeing Dick Cheney in front of Congress, because this would be good television.
Sure, and if he didn't show up, Congress, most people don't realize, has the right to throw someone in jail for contempt. I'd much rather see him, and they have cells in the basement of the Capitol building. I'd love to see Dick Cheney behind
He mentions contempt. There'll be a lot of contempt between Cheney and Congress, I'll tell you that.
All right, let's move on and talk about not so interesting hearing in front of Congress right now, and not a lot of contempt. Sotomayor going to get going today. Is this going to be any sizzle or all fizzle, Cosmo?
I think mostly fizzle. I think that the Republicans, Senator Jeff Sessions and the Republicans, are doing what people expect them to do, which is making some noise about this nomination.
But it's all going through the motions.
I really think it is. I think that they're not in a position where they can really halt this. They've said they're not going to hold up the nomination, so they're going to bang around a little bit and get rough, but I think this thing goes through.
Yeah, this goes through. She was masterful yesterday, talking about her and her brother and her mother all studying at the kitchen table. It's a true story. It's real. I can understand how some people might take issue with some of her decisions in politics, but basically, affirmative action is the law of the land. She applied the law as it should be. Now, that law has since been overturned by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court overturning it more or less took the teeth out of this, I think.
Let's move on to the building behind us in the corner office, Deval Patrick, and I must ask the question Jay Leno once asked Hugh Grant. What the hell were you thinking? What was he thinking with this zoo veto, Cosmo? And you were all surprised how this has played out, which is Deval got beat in less than 24 hours.
I mean, he may not have initially thought through the implications of the budget cut. Certainly he had time to think through whether to push for a veto or not. And, what happened here is the leadership of Zoo New England really put all their chips right in the middle and said, okay, I guess we're going to have to kill some animals. How do you call that bet? Excuse the Pope analogy, but you can't. And they won the hand on this, and we're going to get that veto.
Is that what happened? They played chicken with him, and Deval blinked immediately, Peter?
Deval didn't blink. The legislature blinked. This is a job that Dick Cheney could have cleaned up. He would have gone down there with his shotgun, cleaned up a few animals.
Listen,
this is very unfair. The political efficacy of the governor's choice is certainly open to debate. No one in this state has been pushing the need for budget cutbacks, budget reform, new taxes harder than Deval Patrick. I think.
Yeah, but this isn't about budget reform, and this isn't about cutbacks. What this is about is how naive he is
about
to
emotion.
think you take on animals.
Sometimes,
you never do that.
Sometimes you have to make a political calculation in doing the business of government, and that calculation just wasn't made. And no, he didn't blink. Nonetheless, they put all the chips on the table, and he got beat on.
Things like zoos and libraries, for example, can't be treated the same way because they need, constant care. Personally, I think the zoo should have had a budget cut, less than what was proposed. The real thing is get rid of the Stoneham Zoo. We don't need two of them. Consolidate it. And that's where Zoo New England may rue the day. We will not be able to support two zoos. Close Stoneham.
Let's go to City Hall right now and talk about Sam Yoon, candidate for mayor, who is proposing a term limits idea for the position of mayor. He wants 2 terms and 2 terms only. Either of you think this has any chance in hell of ever being the law?
Well, my take on this, Sam, let's discuss it when you're mayor.
It's a good point. I'll admit just occasionally flip-flopping on the issue of term limits.
That's not a pretty sight.
I've heard some proposals that I think make some sense, but in this case, I don't think this has any chance. Peter has a good point, and in the end, the responsibility still rests with the voters. They have that ability to put a new person in office.
The term limits pledge is as meaningful as
a Deval Patrick veto.
The term limits pledge is as meaningful as
one of those no right on red signs.
That's a good point, actually, Cosmo. Well done.
Taking that right every
very
time.
Short on time. Quickly, Cosmo, just break this down for me one time. Give me one key to the game tonight, the Major League All-Star game.
The National League's got to hit that knuckleball, right? They got to hit the knuckleball.
Peter Cadges of the Boston Phoenix, Cosmo Macero of the
It's a historic moment.
They are the heavy hitters.